Happy New Year! 2026 is now here and it's looking very interesting. But before we look forward, let's look back at 2025. And before I get into that, if you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe because it really does help the channel out. 2025 has been a very interesting year for the UFC. We've had a bucket load of title changes, loads of crazy knockouts, and some unbelievable fights. But what's the best of the best? Let's get into the year in review and my awards. We'll start with the fun one, Knockout of the Year. KO of the Year is always one of the hardest to pin down, especially this year, because there was absolutely no shortage of brutal knockouts. One of the biggest has to be Ilia Topuria flatlining Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight strap and becoming a two-division champion. The story around it is incredibly exciting, but a stiff breeze drops Oliveira at this point, and it was impressive, but it was nothing shocking. We also had back-to-back spinning elbows at UFC 319. Pratis cracked Jeff Neal with a beauty, and Murphy followed suit, flattening former Bellator star Aaron Pico. It was insane to see, and as exciting as all of those were, none of them stuck out to me more than Quinlan Salkid. His head kick finish over Calvin Castellim Jr. wasn't just clean as a whistle, it was perfect. Perfect setup, perfect timing, straight through the guard, and bam! I shit my f***ing pants. Nasrat was down for ages and Quinlan has put himself on the map in 2025, and that's, for me, it's why it has to be Knockout of the Year. Best submission. There was quite a few good ones this year. For example, Islam choking out Moicano in just a couple of minutes, and I felt so bad for Moicano. He got completely set up with this fight. And then Merab submitting Sean O'Malley, which just seems wild to say out loud, right? Who the f expected Merab to get a finish? And then, of course, Volta Walker heel hooking every blob he can get his hands on. But for me, the most impressive submission has to be Gene Silva versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce is a legit grappler. He's scrambly, he's awkward, he's dangerous in transitions, and Gene Silva didn't just beat him, he dismantled him, putting him in a standing ninja choke, perfectly set up, pressure straight through the neck, no pulling guard, no chaos, just calm, quiet technique, which is something you wouldn't expect from Gene Silva. And the fact it came standing against a guy who knows what he's doing makes it even more impressive. Bryce is legit and Silva put on a clinic, so it has to be Gene Silva for the best submission of 2025. Best title change. There are so many options for this because every single belt changed hands in 2025 except for women's flyweight. That is nuts to think about. John Jones vacated and Aspinall took over. Volkanovski reclaimed gold after getting flatlined. Ilia and Islam became two-division champions, and Merab fell at the last hurdle against Piotr Yan. But for me, no title change was more satisfying than Alex Pereira getting his belt back from Magomed Ankalaev. This was the second time they'd met in 2025, and in the first fight, Alex looked lost. He was hesitant, reactive, and clearly uncomfortable with the threat of the takedown. But in the rematch, no fear whatsoever. Alex walked Ankalaev down like he was the f***ing Terminator. Alex came out like a man with a plan. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He took away the space, forced Ankalaev backwards, and one clean right hand. Ankalaev panic shoots. There was some nasty ground and pound, and it was all done. It wasn't just a win, it wasn't just a title change, it was a statement. It proved all the doubters wrong about Alex Pereira, including me, and that's why it has to be the best title change of the year. Best fight. There were some great fights this year. Jan versus Merab 2, Yuri versus Hill, Royval versus Van. The list goes on and on and on, but for me, this one goes a little under the radar, and I think it's Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier 3. No other fight had the story or the stakes of Mustin versus Dax. Mustin versus Dax? Max versus Dustin. I don't know what's going on there. This was a legacy MMA. Dustin welcomed Max to the UFC in 2012 and submitted him. They met again in 2019 for interim gold, and Dustin beat Max again, although Max did take this fight on short notice. And then in 2025, Max was Dustin's last ever fight in the UFC, and with the BMF belt on the line, this was Dustin's chance to leave the UFC with a strap, and it was Max's chance to finally get revenge and solidify himself at 155. Two legends went at it for 5 rounds. It was back and forth, it had big moments, loads of damage, Max pushing the pace, Dustin leaving everything on the line, and I just think the high level performance and the story surrounding it makes it the best fight of the year. Best performance? For me, this one is easy. It has to be Petr Yan. Merab embarrassed Petr back in 2023. Shut him down, outworked him, outclassed him. So when they announced this rematch, I didn't really see the point. What was going to be different this time around? Well, Yan quickly shut me the fuck up. Yan put on one of the best performances I've ever seen. He shut down the takedowns, he controlled the clinch, he destroyed the body, and he outstruck Merab for 5 rounds solid. Merab seemed unstoppable this year, and it felt like no one had the answer, but Yan certainly did. It wasn't just revenge, it was a technical masterclass. Biggest rising star? Without a doubt, it has to be Walter Walker. Both literally and figuratively, the heavyweight division is desperate for new stars, and Walter delivered. He's had 4 back-to-back heel hook finishes, and 3 of those were in 2025, and all under 2 minutes. He's massive, he's aggressive, he's technical, and he's chaotic on the microphone.
You take down this Peppa Pig, chocolate Peppa Pig, and you think you have wrestling?
He's a star in the making. He's not just winning, he's entertaining, and I think we're going to see a lot more of him this year. Best female fighter? For me, there's no more clearer answer than Valentina Shevchenko. There isn't even really an argument for anyone else. Yeah, okay, Kayla Harrison and Mackenzie Dern both won belts last year, but Valentina beat the best competition and did it convincingly. She beat back-to-back dangerous opponents that everyone was saying she was too old for, too slow for. She shut down Zhang Wei Li and outworked Manon Fiorot. Fine, she wasn't particularly entertaining while doing it, but she got the job done, and she reminded everyone how high level she is. She is one of the best female fighters of all time, so she has to be the best fighter of 2025. Best male fighter? There are only 3 options here really: Ilia Topuria, Merab Dvalishvili, and Islam Makhachev. Ilia became a 2-division champion and put on an amazing performance, but he only fought once in 2025. That's not enough to be crowned fighter of the year in my books. And Merab, on the other hand, he fought 4 times this year alone, and it seemed like he was going to be his year. He'd put on top quality performances, but he fell at the last hurdle and got dominated by Petr Yan. So the only option left is Islam Makhachev. Islam stepped up a division and made a top welterweight look completely helpless for 25 minutes. Jack Della Maddalena had nothing. He couldn't create the space, he couldn't get off any offense, and he had no answers whatsoever. Islam didn't just become a 2-division champion, he cemented himself in the all-time great conversation with this performance, and that's why Islam Makhachev has to be the fighter of the year. So that's been my year in review. 2025 has had some great fights, and I'm incredibly excited to see what we have in store for 2026. Make sure you let me know in the comments down below if you agree with my choices or if you think I'm completely wrong. But thank you everyone for watching. If you can like, comment and subscribe, it really does help the channel out.